Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Tuesday evening, April 29, 2025. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video. I'd really appreciate it if you guys get this video to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more persons who are in the path of these tropical systems so that we can keep everyone safe, especially during the peak months of Atlantic hurricane season, that's August through to October. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please ensure that you all utilize the progress bar that's located at the bottom of the video, as well as the timestamps that are located not only in the comment section, but the video description, so that you can skip to the points in the video that you want to see the most in order to save time, because we know that the videos over here with the Jamaica can be very long. Leave a comment down below, letting me know what the that's been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so we're going to be looking at the US Climate Prediction Center's Global Tropics Hazards Outlook, and we're going to be looking at the time period from May 7 to May 30, as well as May 14 to May 20, and we're going to be focusing our attention on the Atlantic right here where we have Jamaica. And what do we see regarding Jamaica? We don't see much of anything. We do see some greens to the east of Jamaica across Hispaniola into the southeastern Caribbean and the northeastern Caribbean, both representing a 50% to a 65% chance of above normal rainfall probability. And for the time period for May 14 to May 20, that rainfall has shifted to the northeast of the Caribbean, extending all the way out into the northern portion of North Atlantic. It's going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out. And whatever happens, I'll definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs. We're going to be looking at what the next 7 days have in store for us, according to the latest Euro and GFS Supercomputer runs that came out today. So keep your eyes focused on the timestamp right here at the top. As we go to the next 168 hours, that's the next 7 days. Keep your eyes focused on Jamaica right here, as we look for all of this that we see on the key on the right. That's the reds, the oranges, the yellows, and the greens that represents inches of rainfall. So let's see what's going to be taking place. As we head into Wednesday morning, 12 is actually 7 a.m. as we know. We see some greens represent some rainfall across northeastern parishes in Jamaica. Then, by Wednesday afternoon, we see that rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. Let's see if we have the agreement on the GFS. Wednesday morning, rainfall across northeastern parishes. Wednesday afternoon, rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. And we also see an abundance of moisture across portions of Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, and the central Caribbean waters. Very interesting. Let us see what Thursday morning has in store for us. On Thursday morning, we can see that maybe some isolated showers could be affecting northern Jamaica once again. Thursday afternoon, we see rainfall once more across eastern, central, and western parishes. Now there's the GFS show for the same time period. Thursday morning, northeastern parishes with that rainfall. Thursday afternoon, rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes once again. And we still see that abundance of moisture across Hispaniola and Puerto Rico. On Friday morning, we see not much of anything across Jamaica on the Euro. Friday afternoon, however, we see that rainfall across second of some eastern, central, and western parishes. Now does the GFS show for the same time period. Friday morning, rainfall across the waters to the north, south, east, and west of Jamaica. Friday afternoon, rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does the Euro show for Saturday morning? On Saturday morning, we see rainfall across the waters to our south, east, or north. Saturday afternoon, rainfall across eastern, central, western parishes. What does the GFS show for the same time period? Saturday morning, rainfall across our south, east. Very interesting. Looks like it's going to be a wet Saturday. Then on Saturday afternoon, rainfall across eastern, central, western parishes once again. On Sunday morning, what do we see? Rainfall surrounding the islands. Looks like it's going to be getting even wetter for sure. Sunday afternoon, rainfall across eastern and western parishes. What does the GFS show for Sunday morning? Rainfall engulfing the island, as you can see by the greens. Sunday afternoon, rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. What does Monday have in store for us? On Monday morning, we see rainfall to our south. On Monday afternoon, we see rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. On the GFS on Monday morning, we see rainfalls engulfing the entire island. On Monday afternoon, we see rainfall across eastern, central, and western parishes. It looks like it's going to be getting even wetter the more we progress into the first week of May. And we're going to be stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours. So this is valid for let's say Tuesday, May 6th. And what do we see? We see rainfall across eastern, central, western parishes by the end of the day on Tuesday. Let us see what the GFS is showing for the same time period. Some rainfall as well across eastern, central, western parishes. We also see an abundance of moisture right here across sections of Florida, section of the Bahamas. Very interesting. We'll see it actually plays out. Either way, in terms of the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps for the next 7 days, you can see that the most rainfall from now all the way up until Tuesday, May 6, we're going to be receiving some tremendous rainfall, especially across those areas that are shaded in the dark reds, purples into the pinks. That represents anywhere from 2 to 5 inches of rainfall. As usual, we're talking about Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, section of southern Trinidad, section of Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, and even the waters to the south of Panama and Costa Rica. Look at that, getting up into the 12 to 15, maybe even close to 20 inches of rainfall range. We also see an abundance of moisture expected anywhere from Guadeloupe northward, Antigua and Barbuda, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis, the US and British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, the Hispaniola area, sections of Cuba getting in on some of that. This rainfall could definitely trigger somewhat of isolated flash flooding. We also see section of Jamaica shaded in the dark reds, sections of southern Guatemala, El Salvador, southern Honduras, sections of western portions of Nicaragua shaded in these dark reds too. That represents at least up to 2 to 2.5 inches of rainfall. You clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS models, for the most part, are in consensus with that forecast. But regarding the greens into the yellows into the oranges and reds, it represents anywhere from 0.1 of an inch of rainfall up to an inch of rainfall for sure. And that could be expected across sections of Tobago, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, section of St. Lucia, Martinique, Dominica, the ABC Islands, most of Nicaragua, Honduras, Belize, North Central, Guatemala, sections of the Yucatan, Cayman Islands, and portions of Florida as well as the Bahamas getting in on that kind of rainfall for sure. It's going to be very interesting to see how all of that plays out. And if we focus our attention on Jamaica's total accumulated precipitation forecast for the next 7 days, we can see that the most rainfall according to the Euro is going to be off to our east. Look at all of these oranges into at least a slight pink, represents anywhere from 50 millimeters of rainfall to at least 80 millimeters of rainfall. The GFS not that impressed with the abundance of rainfall to our east, but we do see the greens. There's a lot of rainfall expected in the next 7 days, especially by the end of the next 7 days. Either way, where the consensus is located for the most part is where we see all of the greens into the yellows, into the oranges. That represents anywhere from 15 millimeters of rainfall all the way up to at least 60 millimeters of rainfall, maybe 50, especially across the eastern end. That's what the Euro is showing. The GFS a bit more robust, especially across central Jamaica, up to at least 68 millimeters of rainfall. It's going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out, and I'll definitely be here to keep you posted with what occurs, so stay tuned, especially on our other social media platforms. Taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, you can see a ridge of high pressure right up the east coast of the US, another ridge of high pressure right here across the northern portion of North Atlantic that we know are responsible for sending all of the easterly trade winds across the main development region through the Caribbean. You can see some frontal system extending from the northern portion of North Atlantic all the way down to the Bahamas, and the trough that's still lingering right here into portion of the Leeward Islands, extending up into the waters of the northern portion of North Atlantic. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before we lost the sunlight, we can make out all of these entities. The clouds associated with the frontal system extending into portion of the Bahamas to bring some overcast skies and showers to those areas, and we also make out the clouds associated with the trough still plaguing the waters to the north of the eastern Caribbean. You can also make out the low level flow of the clouds being steered from east to west, all courtesy of the ridges of high pressure to the north. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean a little later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today, Tuesday, April 29, 2025. It was stated that rainfall would have been in the forecast of parts of northern Jamaica on Tuesday morning, also affecting sections of some eastern, central, and western parishes during Tuesday afternoon. And we know northern parishes, we're talking about Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland. Eastern parishes, we're talking about these parishes in the county of Surrey, like Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew. Central parishes, and we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, like St. Anne, St. Mary, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine. Or Western parishes, and we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. And what ended up happening? At around 4:40 a.m., the Cuban Doppler radar images were posted on our Twitter page with the Jamaica, as well as on our Instagram page with the Jamaica, on our TikTok page with the Jamaica, and on our Facebook page with the Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there as we make posts throughout the day that you can't afford to miss. So at around that time, we saw the greens into the yellows that represents moderate to heavy rainfall in the green. Well, we know the greens represent the moderate, that's moderate rainfall. The yellows fuerte, that's heavy rainfall or strong rainfall. And we saw most of it was toward north, but some of it was definitely affecting section of the north coast, section of coastal areas of St. James, maybe sections of coastal areas of Hanover or to the north of there. Also saw some rain bands coming into sections of Portland as well as the morning progressed. Then at around 2:05 p.m., the visible satellite images were posted. They highlighted that we're still getting on that moist northeasterly flow, and then we had the clouds building across sections of some southern parishes, sections of Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Portmore people definitely got a lashing today. We also got rainfall across sections of, let's say, St. Elizabeth as well, and this was at around 2:05 p.m. But it definitely progressed even more so as the afternoon progressed. First of all, look at the low level to mid-level flow of the clouds, and we had those clouds building across sections of eastern, central, western parishes just as predicted. Then the upper level wind shear tearing those cloud tops off towards the northeast when we had that daytime heating. And even while we're losing the sunlight, we still had some leftover clouds right here across sections of Westmoreland and the waters to our south. And if we take a look at the infrared close-up satellite imagery, we can make out the upper level clouds being sheared off towards the northeast. We can make out the greens, the blues, the yellows, the oranges that represent the cumulonimbus clouds in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And we can also make out the sparkling white dots that we know represent the lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes. Definitely had some thunderstorms across section of St. Catherine, Portmore, section of Clarendon, Manchester, section of St. Elizabeth for sure. Definitely had that thunderstorm activity before we are beginning to lose the sunlight, and we're starting to clear out as we can see here. And I'd like to highlight this live camera from See Jamaica's YouTube channel. It's showing that rain shaft that was taking place across Portmore at that time, 1:34 p.m. Look at the heavy rainfall. Let us rewind it just a sec. So we're looking down from the hills of, let's say, East Kingston. Well, we know that the National Stadium and National Arena are right here, directly to the west or to the west southwest of where the camera is placed. And when we looking over to the Kingston Wharf, and then we see this huge shaft of rain. We can't even make out Portmore right there. They definitely got a heavy downpour. There was definitely thunder and lightning taking place as well. I'm pretty sure that the people of Portmore were grateful. They've been praying for the rainfall and they definitely got it. At that time, we can see that Kingston, St. Andrew for the most part was getting in on just some cloudy conditions in general. And I'd like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to see more live streams like this, just visit See Jamaica on YouTube. They have these live streams for your viewing pleasure, and they're planning on increasing the amount of cameras that they have in and around the island. So subscribe today so that you don't miss out. Taking a look at the total accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours from the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website, this map does indeed paint quite the picture of where we might have had that rainfall today. Across section of northern Jamaica in the morning, across section of southern Jamaica, especially during the afternoon hours. So it was definitely an eastern, central, and western parishes kind of day for sure. And we definitely have the confirmation from some of our subscribers and followers on our social media platforms about what the weather was like in their area today. We have Sylvia Daly stating, "Thanks so much, people of God, praying for Portmore. We get rain. Keep Portmore in prayer. Need rain." Thanks for confirming, Sylvia. We also have Sandra Brown 2882 stating heavy showers in Portmore. Thanks for confirming that as well, Miss Brown. Even on our Instagram page, we had Island Body _ Shanzi raining with lightning in Portmore. Thanks for confirming. We also have _forever _Phoenix. Looks like a small hurricane outside. Thunder, wind, heavy rain near Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth. Thanks for confirming that. Even Marlon _1God_ stating rain a fall here and thunder a rule. Let us know the parish next time, Marlon. Even on our Facebook page, we had Demure Luxtafari, stating it rained in Portmore after 1, stopped at 2, then the sun returned. It's overcast now. Steven Del Vale, stating overcast in Kingston. Thank you all for confirming what the weather is like in your area. Alright, so let us reload the very latest still image from the Weather Nerds website. Let's see what's happening right now. And clearly we can see that everything is clearing out for the most part across the island for sure. The latest still image is showing 23:35 UTC. It's actually 6:35 p.m. So this just came out 5, 10, 14 minutes ago, considering that it's 6:49 p.m. right now. And we can see that even the Doppler radar imagery is not showing much of anything across that. Well, it shouldn't be showing much of anything across the land, but it's showing things because it glitched out at around 3:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It was actually 2:20 p.m. Jamaica time, and at that time we actually saw the rain bands that were lashing sections of Portmore right here. Look at the greens, the yellows represent some heavy rainfall. You can see the rainfall that took place across sections of Clarendon, sections of Manchester, southern area, section of St. Elizabeth, eastern Westmoreland. Definitely got in on some moderate to heavy rainfall in the yellows, oranges, even some slight reds in there as well. The Guantanamo Bay Cuban Naval Radar imagery, on the other hand, is not really showing much of anything across eastern or northeastern Jamaica, western peninsula of Haiti, but we do see where we had some isolated shows across sections of southeastern Cuba. Let us see what's happening on the Cayman radar. Let us reload this about the very latest show. The Cayman radar not showing much of anything across the Cayman Islands or south central Cuba or western Jamaica. But, well, I think I can make out some rain bands right here across section of Westmoreland. Do we actually have clouds there? Well, maybe it glitched out, who knows. Either way, we can make out some isolated shores right here to the south of the Cayman Islands. Taking a look at what's happening right now, the live camera from See Jamaica's YouTube channel is showing that at 6:51 p.m. you can see people in their vehicles going about their business. Nothing in the way of bad weather taking place. The rear Cobra definitely chilling for the time being. Definitely fair conditions being experienced as we speak, and that should be the order of the evening. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see the we're 26 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston, and by about 4 a.m. on Wednesday, temperature should dip down to about 23 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay and 24 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is valid for 18Z on Wednesday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Wednesday, and we can see Jamaica right here, embedded in the grays and the blues that represent average to slightly below average temperatures. And we know that the average temperature for the month of April across Jamaica is around 88 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's converted to degrees Celsius that we use here in Jamaica. That's around 31.1 degrees Celsius. So we should be receiving anywhere from 31.1 or 30.1 to 31.1 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperature on Wednesday. And unfortunately, we have some maintenance outage advisories here from my JPS Online Twitter page that we have to highlight. I know that we have to highlight it because know that when we're power outages somewhere across the island, it can definitely make the heat feel even worse because we don't have our fan or AC to cool us down. So if you live or work in these areas, or if you have friends or relatives who live or work in these areas, please let them know that a power outage is coming their way on Wednesday, April 30, 2025. We're referring to Barnstaple in the parish of Trelawney from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we're also referring to Belmont Park in St. Catherine from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we have some tips right here to beat the heat as usual. It states here, when outside, seek shade. Eat fresh or eating cold food such as salads and fruits. Rest, make sure you get enough sleep and rest if you're feeling tired. Soak, take a cool shower or bath to help you cool down. Keep hydrated, drink lots of water throughout the day, even if you're not thirsty, and put away those sugar drinks and drink water instead. Taking a look at the dry air map, we know that the dry air is represented by what we see here on the key on the bottom. The yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those areas. And we do see the abundance of dry air across the Gulf, the waters to the east of the US, the waters to the northwest of Africa. And we know the dry air is responsible for keeping the atmosphere stable, making it harder for it to rain, making it harder for us to get storms or hurricanes at this time of year. But what we like is the yellows as well as the blues that represent the low end of the scale in terms of dry air, as well as the moist air. We see a lot of that across section of the Caribbean, extending up to waters to the northeast of the Caribbean. We also see a lot of that across the western Caribbean, the eastern portion of the Pacific, and the intertropical convergence zone of the Atlantic for sure. That's what we want to see. We want the moist air so that we can get more rainfall to keep water in our pads. But regarding the Saharan dust forecast for 18 UTC on Wednesday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Wednesday, we can see the brunt of the Saharan dust still right here across portions of eastern or southeastern Europe, Asia, Africa right here. the most intense with the dark browns that represent that vigorous plume that can cause very hazy skies, not to mention trigger somewhat of respiratory illnesses in some persons. Not to say that some of these intensities can't do the same, cause hazy skies and trigger respiratory illnesses. We can see the 5449. It's quite a vigorous kind of plume, somewhere in here in terms of the dust concentration, affecting a portion of the Windward Islands and northern South America as we speak. And I'm pretty sure that they're definitely seeing the hazy skies for sure, but we're glad that we over here, us over here in the Greater Antilles, are in the clear for 1 p.m. on Wednesday. We know that the ridges of high pressure are responsible for sending all of these dust particles across the main development region into the Caribbean. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we still see that the highest waves are right here in the purples, right here to the east of the Bahamas, to the northeast of the Turks and Caicos. That's up to 2 meter wave heights, while the light shades of blues to dark shades of blues extending from the Gulf across the majority of the Bahamas, the Greater Antilles into the Central and Eastern Caribbean. All of that representing anywhere from 0.5 meter wave height all the way up to 1.5 meter wave height. On the north coast tomorrow, up to at least 1.4 meter wave height right there to the north of St. Anne, 1.5 meter wave height to the north of Portland, 1.4 meter wave height to the north of Hanover, to the south of Westmoreland, 0.4 meter wave height, the south of St. Elizabeth, 0.5 meter wave height, south of Clarendon, 0.6 of a meter wave height, south of, let's say, St. Thomas, is it gonna load for me? 1.2 meter wave height. So on the south coast, clearly right here to the south of St. Thomas as the highest waves, and because of the winds that are expected. Still expecting more of a northerly or northeasterly kind of flow across the Bahamas into Cuba, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Hispaniola, curving westward into the northwestern Caribbean, curving northward, so more of a southeasterly flow into the Gulf. You see more of an east-southeasterly flow across the eastern Caribbean, east-west to the south of Hispaniola, northeast to southwest into the southwestern Caribbean. And we know that these are basically averaging anywhere from 10 to 15, maybe being gusting to 20 knots, especially right here in the windward passage between Cuba and Haiti. And if you take a closer look at the wind forecast, wind should be coming in still from the northeast, averaging at least 16 knots right here to the north of Portland, 17 knots right here to the north of St. Anne, 18 knots to the north right here of Hanover, to the south of St. Thomas, 19 knots. And we see that the air is going to be piling up once again across sections of some southern parishes. This pattern won't quit, and we're here for it. We want the rainfall on the south coast for sure. We know that wherever we have the least amount of wind, that's where all of the air in the afternoon is going to be piling up. Then we have that daytime heating, rainfall, that afternoon convection. Maybe across section of Kingston, St. Andrews, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland. And then we have that upper level wind shear still coming in from the, well, it looks to be coming in from the west tomorrow. Today it seemed like it was coming in from the southwest, as we saw those cloud tops being sheared off towards the northeast. May bring some overcast skies to northern Jamaica. Not rainfall, just overcast skies for the most part during the afternoon. But tomorrow, stating that the upper level winds are going to be coming in from the west. So we'll see how that plays out. Either way, in terms of the rainfall forecast maps now, as usual, morning showers for sections of the north, anywhere from St. Anne eastward, St. Mary, Portland. And we see that on both the year and the GFS malls, and this is valid for around 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's actually 7 a.m. Jamaica time, and it could even start earlier than that for sure. So don't think that it's coming at 7 a.m. It could start earlier than that. And then by around 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it's actually 3 p.m. Jamaica time. We are still seeing that rainfall across the northeast, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, as well as sections of maybe Kingston, St. Andrews, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, maybe even southern St. James, southern Trelawney, getting in on some of the action. And keep in mind that this rain could definitely start sooner than 3 p.m. So look out for that. So it's once again rainfall for eastern, central, and western parishes during the afternoon, and rainfall for northern Jamaica during the morning. And even the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps are in agreement that it's going to be raining somewhere in Jamaica within the next 24 hours. The GFS going up to at least 0.54 for an inch of rainfall in the northeast. The Euro going up to at least 0.42 of an inch of rainfall in the northeast. Clear the northeast is getting the brunt of the rainfall, and whatever happens, we'll definitely take it. In the month of April, we are starting to ramp up in terms of the rainfall that we usually receive. We're heading into May now, one of the wettest months of the year in general, the secondary rainy season. And in April, whose bar graph, well, in Kingston, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the top for April, we can see that we usually receive close to 40 millimeters of rainfall for April. In Montego Bay's bar graph is being shown right here at the bottom. We can see that we usually receive close to 4 inches of rainfall in the month of April. And I'd like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to find out what your specific price usually receives in terms of rainfall for the month of April or for the entire year, you can visit weatherandclimate.com, and that website will show you that information. And you can use this nice graphic right here that converts rainfall from inches to millimeters, and that 1 inch of rainfall is about the same as 25 millimeters of rainfall, so you can do the math yourself. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we have some clouds bring some thunderstorms to portion of Costa Rica, Panama, section of Colombia, western Venezuela. Let us see what's happening right now in terms of the Doppler radar images near Puerto Rico. We can actually see some hit or miss isolated showers in and around section of Martinique, Dominica, Guadeloupe, section of Puerto Rico's northern portions for sure getting on some moderate to heavy rainfall as we speak, and section of south central and southwestern Puerto Rico definitely getting nailed some moderate to heavy rainfall today. We also see some hit or miss isolated showers in and around the Leeward Islands. If you take a look at Barbados, we're not seeing much of anything across Barbados or Grenada right now. There's some isolated showers passing through section of St. Vincent, St. Lucia, section of Martinique getting on some of that, and we can see that rain band pushing towards the west. I see much of anything across Trinidad and Tobago, but if we take a look at what we have Doppler images, we can see that rainfall exiting the western portions of Florida, some isolated shores in and around the Yucatan, Belize, section of northern Guatemala, section of Colombia, northwestern Venezuela, and getting on some of the action too. And regarding where most of the rainfall is expected within the next 24 hours, here the most rainfall is going to be across sections of the western half of Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, sections of Puerto Rico, Hispaniola getting on the Caribbean's burnt of rainfall. While isolated shores are definitely going to be in the forecast, a portion of the Leeward Islands, Guadeloupe, Dominica, section of Martinique getting on some of the action too. So too section of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, maybe some isolated shores or sections of eastern Belize, eastern Yucatan, southern Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, section of Guyana, Suriname, French Guiana getting on the mix as well. And we can clearly see that both the year and the GFS models are in agreement with that forecast. We know that when they're in agreement like this, the chances are higher for it to actually take place. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.